Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 41 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long, and we are coming to you once again from the international headquarters of GSM Services right here in downtown Gastonia, and looking forward to having some great discussions in the coming weeks and months. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We are highlighting another great event this week and have Chip Harrison with us from the Gaston County Bar Association and Officer Jaimes from the City of Gastonia Police Department. And we are highlighting the Catch Me on the Court charity basketball game, which sounds like quite an event. So Chip and Officer Jaimes, it's great to have you on, and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we're going to get right to it, and maybe we'll start with you, Chip, if you don't mind. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to share for our listeners.
Absolutely. My name is Chip Harrison. I have been an attorney for 20 years now, working here in Gaston County. Born and raised, graduate of North Gaston High School. After graduating law school, wanted to come back to my hometown to practice law, and have been doing so for, again, 20 years. I started out in a small firm first year and a half to 2 years, and then I went with the Gaston County Public Defender's Office the 18 years following that.
Okay, very good. Thank you for sharing that. Officer Jaimes, what about you, sir?
Yeah, thank you for having us here.
Absolutely.
First of all, I've been with the police department going on 18 years. Started off as a patrolman. I'm originally from New York City, actually backstepping a little bit, so I'm from New York City. And I'm actually a community coordinator here. I love to organize events. I work with the Latin community very much so, and also with other organizations around the county. All
right. Well, very good. Again, appreciate that, and thank you for your service to here in our county. So maybe go back to you, Chip. Can you just kind of share the history of the event, what is it you're trying to accomplish, and just kind of share with our listeners, and we'll get in a little more detail about it.
Well, with the Gaston County Bar Association, I am part of what's called the Community Outreach Committee.
Okay.
And with all the things that all of us have been going through for the last 2 to 3 years at this point, we were trying to figure out ways to give back to the community, and there was a number of ideas that were kind of floating around, and I kind of came up with the idea of, once we could become more social again, once some of the hindrances kind of like subsided, what could we do? And I thought of this basketball game that was a friendly and healthy way to kind of give back to some of the charities that are already established in the county. And while police officers and attorneys a lot of times are on different sides and different ends of the spectrum, we're all kind of part of the same team. We're all part of the court system. We're all part of the justice system, and we all work together. And I thought it would be just a nice way to kind of showcase a friendly rivalry and to be able to benefit what I think is a worthwhile community, a worthwhile charity, which is the Boys and Girls Club and the Police Officers Fund, because both of those charities have been established for years, and they give so much back to the community, so much back to the police officers, and we just kind of thought, okay, let's do this, let's get the ball rolling, and we kind of started conversations from there.
All right. So, so how did you end up? So I understand you initiated, or you kind of started the discussion. I mean, has anything like this ever been done before here locally that you're aware of?
Years ago, there was a Doctors versus Lawyers.
Doctors versus Lawyers.
Yeah, and that was probably about 15 years ago. And it happened one year, and then it kind of subsided. And that was a charity event as well. And so I've been around long enough to have remembered that game, and personally, just kind of on a personal note, I grew up playing basketball in the county, and I played basketball at the Boys and Girls Club. I played basketball at the Y, and then I went on and did the junior high and things, and so that was something that was kind of in me anyway.
Sure.
I enjoyed playing basketball, and so it's not happened in the last decade. But my hopes is that after this year, it will continue to happen, and we'll be able to continue to grow the event.
Maybe making an annual event, hopefully.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, what I'm hoping for, and I think everybody kind of was looking forward to, is like baby steps this year with the Gastonia City police officers, and then maybe next year opening it up to the other policing agencies in the county and the first responders, and having a small tournament.
Kind
of having a 4 or 5 game format where maybe the firefighters, maybe the EMTs, and like the different, like the county police, and kind of broaden the spectrum there a little bit. And but we wanted to take a baby step this year, make sure that we knew what we were doing, make sure that the community was interested, and make sure it works, and then grow it from there.
Very good. So, Officer Jaimes, how did you get pulled into this event?
Well, being a community guy, it's kind of easy to get thrown into things. But I think this is a great event. Like I said, Chip was explaining. Just the culture here of Gaston County is just something very special. And it's growing more and more, and with diversity just being a huge part of it nowadays, we've all seen a lot of changes. And with something like this, a sporting event is something that brings people together. And I think this is one of those great opportunities that we can start, like Chip said, baby steps, and to continue going to the right direction.
So what are you hoping to, this is for both of you, but what in the broader picture, what are you kind of trying to accomplish? I know you talked about the specific things with the two charities, and to your point, I played soccer and baseball through the West, what's now called they don't call it the West Gastonia Boys and Girls Club anymore, but I guess it's the Greater Gaston Boys and Girls Club. But the actual, at one time there was just, when we were young, there was only one, right? Mm-hmm. Now there's multiple locations. But I played soccer there, and actually played baseball through the Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club, which they're on, I guess, Marietta. Of course, I don't think that facility is being used anymore. So, and we had the Boys and Girls Club on, probably episode 4 or 5. That was early last year. We had Chad Melvin and their group, and they're doing a lot of great work in the community. So maybe a broader sense, what is it that you're trying to accomplish, especially coming out of, like you said, this 2 years of, who would have imagined it would have been 2 years later that we're still talking about this disconnect and this lack of connection that we've all had, and just the experience that nobody has been able to avoid.
Well, I think our goals are kind of threefold. First and primarily, we want to give some funding to some worthwhile organizations, being the Boys and Girls Club and the Police Officers Fund. The next is we wanted to get people together again, and we wanted to have people away from texting and virtual meetings and virtual everything else, and get to a place that is fun and healthy and safe, and to get those interpersonal communications and those relationships started to build back, with the community and with the police officers and with the attorneys. Because even as an attorney, a lot of my visits now are virtual. I'm virtually visiting my clients, and we wanted to get back to the handshake, and to the smile on the face, mm-hmm. and to just those moments that I feel like are valuable. And I guess I also wanted to show the community that, and the Boys and Girls Club especially, that, it's okay and to have a healthy lifestyle. Like, sports are a part of life that benefit us in far-reaching ways, and through teamwork and athletics and all that kind of stuff. We wanted to make sure that the community had something to kind of rally around and be proud of. If they can see the police officers and the attorneys playing a game, then shaking hands and then donating to a charity, hopefully other community organizations will take it up and be interested and do something very similar.
Officer Jaimes, from the perspective of the police department, would you say that's similar, or is there anything else you would add to that kind of broader view, and whether it's community involvement, or hoping that other the community will see some collaboration, like this happening, or anything you would add to that?
I think Chip hit it right on the nose. I mean, everything has to do with community. And just seeing everyone work together and just meeting face to face is something that it's rare nowadays. Like Chip said, so many Zoom meetings. I mean, I'm tired of that too. As well as so many people. But it's just the point of life that we had to go through. But now, hopefully, we're going back to normalcy. Yeah,
Zoom has become, I guess, a verb also. We're going to go Zoom this, or a noun as well, right? I mean, but it's kind of like, I don't know, Kleenex and Google, and they become words that I never imagined. I knew of Zoom before 2 years ago, but yeah, you're right. I'm tired of that as well. I'm tired of virtual meetings and not having that face-to-face personal interaction.
And for me, putting a face, even for the children and for people people in society, like Officer Jaimes. Oh, I know Officer Jaimes. It's not just a name behind a text or a name behind an email. Like, I've seen him. I think it just humanizes it, like, on like a lot of different levels. So
yeah, I agree with that very much.
So let's go ahead and, I mean, we typically wait kind of toward the end, but I'm going to go ahead and ask. So let's get specific. When is the event, and the day, time, where?
Well, the Gaston County School Board has been very kind and donated Stuart, Cramer High School for the event, April the 2nd. The event actually starts at 1 o'clock. Doors open at 12:30. We intend to run 4 10-minute quarters, and that was upon request of the players, because 15-minute quarters seemed a little bit much. I'll tell you that the attorneys are the ones who requested that, because they're a little bit afraid of the endurance there. But we're hoping to make it a big event. We're inviting out a lot of people. We're working right now. We can't have food or drink in the auditorium or in the gymnasium because of various health code things with COVID and everything.
Sure.
But we have talked them into possibly allowing us to have food trucks.
Okay,
so we're
excellent.
So we're trying to get food trucks out there for people to eat and have a good time and enjoy themselves. And we're going to do a little bit of a meet and greet with the team, the teams before the game, so that people can like have their pictures made and all that kind of stuff. And so it will be at Stuart Cramer, 1 o'clock, April the 2nd. We will be selling tickets at the door. We're selling tickets now. We're selling T-shirts now. We're continuing to look for sponsors and people to support the event leading up to the event. And at halftime, our bigger sponsors, we're going to do a recognition during the halftime. So we're hoping to make it an event that people have a good time coming out to. We're in talks with a local middle school about, they have a marching band, and we're thinking about having them come out for the halftime show, because we thought with that age group being a lot of what we're primarily like focusing on with the Boys and Girls Club section of this, we thought that would be just a cool way to kind of bring them in, is to have them play during halftime. So we're trying to make it an event that everybody enjoys and they can bring their family out to, and feel safe. Have
the teams been put together yet? Or are you still you still volunteering people, or what?
No. Actually, as soon as the email came out, we had a whopping 17 pull up within the first few minutes. So I guess the sergeant had to close the,
Wow, that's great to hear, actually.
Yeah, and the attorney sent out the email, and we had an attorney step up to be captain, and so we've got the team put together. I think right now we don't have 17, we have 10, but we're hoping to get a couple more wrangled in. And other thing I didn't mention, which I'm sorry I have not, we have encouraged and been successful in. It's going to be a co-ed game, because we have a lot of officers who play college ball. We have a lot of attorneys who've played high school or college ball, and we didn't want to restrict it or make people feel like they had to, if they were one gender or the other, not be able to play in the game. So we've made it co-ed, and I think there's 3 lady officers who have signed up, who've all played college ball, which the attorneys are vastly scared of. I think the teams are good to go. I think that they're actually starting to set up practices.
Okay. So is this going to be like peer coached, or do you have some ringer coaches and ringer players that you've brought in for this?
Well, Sergeant Diorio is our head coach. He's coming out full gear, suit and tie, he said. So and looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we are lucky enough. Jerry Liska, who works for a law firm here in town, actually played ball in Carolina, and so he's our hope.
Okay. All right, then. That's interesting. I might have to see some video proof of this. I think I'll be in town, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to get out there and see the event. It sounds like, again, it's just such a unique thing, and I appreciate what you guys have done. So let's say it's a gigantic hit, and you've mentioned this a little bit already about what you'd like to do in the future, but the 5 and 10 year anniversary annual event comes along. What do you envision that looking like? How many organizations are you supporting, or is it the same, or you've retired and you've turned it over to somebody else? I mean,
well, in 5 years, I hope that it's not just me sitting here. I hope that there's a committee of us who are putting it together, because it's become such a hit and it's become such a draw. I would love to see all the police agencies in Gaston County, plus the EMTs, plus all the first responders, attorneys, doctors, people who kind of work hands-on in the community in those ways. I'd love it to end up being a tournament. And I'd love to crown a champion every year for that tournament, because I think that, even though we all get along, there would be a great amount of pride that went with that.
Sure.
And I would love to see us, be able to benefit, multiple charities throughout Gaston County, because the work that's being done in Gaston County, some of it gets more attention than others, but there are numerous charities in Gaston County that do wonderful work that sometimes just need financial assistance. And if us having a little bit of fun can bring attention to those charities and give them a little bit of opportunity to succeed, I think that's where I want to be. I picked the Boys and Girls Club in Gaston County because it was something that I was near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we felt like it was fair and amazing to be able to benefit the Police Officers Fund Benevolent Association as well, because obviously they do amazing work, and since we were the two teams playing, that's kind of where we went. But I think that in 10 years, I would love to see a tournament. I'd love to see a tournament over 2 or 3 days, and I would love to see us have a situation to where we're giving to multiple charities in the county, and having some good local coverage, and just some positivity, because I think it's easy to get caught up in the negative, in the news stories, because those are the first 5 that you always hear on
Sure.
the news. I would love to be on the news, making a difference in a way that changes people's lives, because I feel like in Gaston County, I think that there's just a ton of good organizations, from the Humane Society to Bread to 1,000 other organizations that just do great work. So that's my goal. 5 to 10 years, I would love to see us be in a place where we're selling out that 2,000 seat Stuart Cramer High School.
And eventually have to move it to PNC Arena and or Spectrum Arena. And
well,
and Charlotte, it gets so big.
Well, I would love to keep it in Gaston, and I'm hoping that with Gaston College building, getting the basketball team, if they get a new place to play, maybe we could do something there. That would be amazing. Yeah.
All right, so that was a big. I appreciate you sharing that. And did you hear that he mentioned 2 organizations I don't think we've had on the podcast, Elizabeth. Need to make note of those 2, Humane Society and Bread. I'm familiar a little bit with both of them, so I appreciate you sharing that. We're always looking for the next, the next guest for our 7 listeners that we have on the podcast. So that's a big vision. You know what? I like that, because that's what it takes. It takes a few individuals. I've been lucky enough to be involved in the community now pretty heavily for 15 or 20 years, and it never ceases to amaze me. You get 1 or 2 people behind something, and then next thing you know, there's something big. There's something big happening. But it does take that. It takes it doesn't take as many people as you think to get something started, but you do have to go find those other individuals with similar passion to kind of bring things along and push them through.
And that's what, like Officer Jaimes was saying earlier, we were starting with baby steps this year, because in the time of COVID, I had a lot of people doubt that we'd even get to this place. How are you going to get people to agree to give you a building? How are you going to get people to agree to play basketball with one another? And at this point, all we need now is the support, of people coming and cheering us on, and the obviously, the monetary support to be able to give to these charities, and baby steps this year, but everything starts with baby steps.
Sure. So this is for both of you. Do you have some goals set up? Is there a fundraising goal, or because it's baby steps and the first time you're like, well, we need to be able to do this, and then we'll worry about specific goals and other things later, or have you gotten that far?
Well, so far, definitely, like we mentioned earlier, the Shop of the Cop program, this will definitely benefit them, and also benefit the Police Athletic League, that we have a soccer team, basketball, and we're actually going to start up a flag football team for kids. So that, like I said, I mean, this event right here is definitely going to benefit the community, and that's basically going back to what we said in the beginning. This is why we do this.
And I'll be quite candid. In my mind, I've set up. I was like, okay, in the first year, if I can raise $5,000, which would give $2,500 to each, because, I have to pay, for some janitorial services, some things like that. So I'll need to make about 6 to make 5. But if we can make $5,000 and give $2,500 to each my first year, I would consider that a success.
Absolutely.
And, I've not really spoken that out loud a whole lot because I don't want to fall short, but I will tell you that we've had a couple people already come forth with, with sponsorship money that has been super beneficial towards helping us reach our goal. And, we're just out there, knocking on doors and, visiting people, trying to get sponsors, trying to get to that 5,000, because personally, that's a personal goal that I have set. Anything that we can contribute to the organizations, whether it be 500 or, whatever we can do, I'm sure would be appreciated and welcomed. But personally, I would love to be able to give them a big check at halftime, $2,500 a piece.
Oh yeah, that would be fantastic, especially for a first time event. Again, like I said, I've been involved in the community for a very long time in different organizations, and that's no small feat. And that type of money for some organizations might not sound like much, but that can make a huge impact in a very short period of time. Can make a huge impact. So. Is there any other questions I haven't asked? I mean, anything specific, something you'd like to share? I mean, I know I'm such a great professional interviewer, but this was kind of unique being an event. I just kind of wanted to let you guys just talk about it and we're just trying to get the word out. But anything I haven't asked, or anything that you'd like to share about the event, or before we kind of move on to some really other important questions?
Well, if I might just add something, since I got to this unit with a community coordinator, I've started several events in the community, and it's been like a brush fire. I mean, everyone has been like so excited about just getting past COVID and just doing things together. That this right here, Catch Me on the Court, it's just going to be another stepping stone to the right direction, and I think a lot of people are going to be very excited about it.
I agree. I encourage people to start following us on social media. We do have an event page on Facebook that's Catch Me on the Court, and also the Gastonia City Police social media has been is going to do a great job of promoting the event as well. So we're going to do small things like that. We're also developing a Catch Me on the Court Instagram page where we're going to profile the players. You get to meet the players, like power forward, Officer J, things of that nature.
6'3" sophomore from the Bronx, New York.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're gonna try to do some fun things that people in the community can get into. But we just want people to kind of come out and enjoy it the first year and have support. I know that a lot of people are excited about it, and we just appreciate any kind of opportunity to kind of serve the community and, any kind of support that we can get, whether it be through sponsorship, whether it be through T-shirts, whether it be through ticket sales. We appreciate anything that we get. And I think that seeing police officers and attorneys in this form, outside of our suits, outside of our uniforms, things of that nature, is going to humanize us. And
sure.
I think that there's something to be said about that. I think that understanding that police officers and attorneys and everybody else is, we're all the same. We're people in Gaston County, who are working together, living together, trying to benefit one another. And I think that that's just something that cannot be understated how important that is.
All right. So before we move on to these questions that are your friends and family and coworkers were wanting to know, but I'm going to ask a quick question of both of you. Maybe start with you, Officer Jaimes. What advice would you give someone kind of wanting to get involved either in the community or just if they're looking for a career in law enforcement? I mean, what advice, we might have some youngster at the Boys and Girls Club that happens to hear this or that you're impacting. What kind of advice would you give them?
I guess the best advice would be actually, we're always available for you. Okay. If you want to inquire about being a law enforcement officer and what it is to be a law enforcement officer, just reach out to us.
Okay.
Call the police department. We'll be more than happy to come out and speak to you. I mean, there's so many different ways to contact us via social media. We're a lot easier to contact now than in previous.
Right. Yeah. I have to admit too, I mean, being on the foundation board for a few years, I do follow the city police department on all social media. And tell you what, the last few months, they got a pretty strong social media game. there's been some really good posts through the police department.
Yeah, me and Rick actually have a little competition because
Oh,
I run the Spanish social media, Policía de Gastonia, and it's funny. We have fun with it, and a lot of people, they just embrace it. So,
well, you know what? We have to adapt to the times, right? I mean, if you'd asked me 20 years ago, is GSM going to be on social media? I'm like, what? And listen, we literally have an expert in the room here on social media, and she's terrific. And so I've learned more from her about social media in the last 6 months than I learned the previous 10 years probably. But yeah, it is something that you have to, you want to reach people these days, that you really need to be a part of that. Chip, what about you? I mean, what advice would you give someone wanting to become an attorney or this isn't on video, but if you had seen the look on Chip's face when I asked that question,
well,
or if there's an attorney out there who's not involved with the bar association, maybe, or something,
first of all, I would, beg and tell any attorney who's not part of a community outreach program to become part of one. I feel like, it's easy to kind of go in and do our jobs and become numb to what we do, but if you get involved with community outreach programs as an attorney, you can help in a lot of different ways, whether it's looking over forms for contracts for event venues or going out actually in the community and doing some work. So I would encourage all attorneys to kind of do that. The joke is, as an attorney, if somebody ever asks you about becoming an attorney, just tell them not to become an attorney. But that's really untrue. I think that we say that joke just because, a lot of times, we're stressed out and overworked. But in saying that, as an attorney, I have found that I have, especially living here and growing up here and being part of the community since I was a child, it has allowed me to have an impact on a wide range of people. One of my first clients was somebody I went to high school with.
Okay.
And, and I was able to get him some assistance that he needed so that he could, celebrate recovery and do well with that. So if you want to become an attorney, first thing I would tell you to do is in high school, become part of the teen court program. The teen court program is a program here in Gaston County where they have high school kids come in and they act as attorneys, they act as jurors, they act as, as a court, and they kind of go through the court process and learn the court process. The other program is the mock court program run by Holden Clark here in the county, and he's one of the attorneys that supervises it, and he does a really good job of like doing moot court competitions and things of that nature, and see if your interest is still going. If it is, do an internship or do a shadow of an attorney. We're all pretty open to that. I did that starting my senior year of high school. I did an internship with the local DA's office and then later on with the local public defender's office, and I got to see both sides of it as far as criminal law, and I would encourage that. So, experience will kind of dictate where you go from there.
Sure,
but that would be my advice: is the teen court program, moot court program, and then just get a good internship and go from there. And remember that I think people think that you have to go to certain law schools. You don't. As long as you pass the bar, that's a great equalizer.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think as a non-law enforcement, non-attorney person, I think sometimes there's this view that we're contacting law enforcement or attorneys when something's not going right or something's bad, right? I mean, we as opposed to like as a business owner now, I mean, good gracious, we're involved with law enforcement and our attorney, and it's not always some negative issue that we're dealing with. So I think even our business, people are calling us often when they're hot or cold. They're not very happy. And so, I mean, I'm please understand, I'm not trying to compare what we do to law enforcement or what you guys deal with, Chip, but it is sometimes there's this image that when something bad happens we need to call the police, or if I'm dealing with something bad I got to call an attorney, and so that can sometimes shrink down people's view of really the broader view of what you guys are doing, especially with all the community stuff you guys are doing. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. Let me be clear before we finish up. We're going to go through some questions here before we finish up. We'll make sure we will repeat how people get involved, how can they donate, and make sure that's very clear. But we do have a set of questions that we like to ask, because this is a podcast about Gaston County and why Gaston County is so important. I guess today I'm just going to make it simple. We change the name every week, but we're just going to call it the Catch Me on My Court speed round of questions. And so we'll start with you, Officer Jaimes, on this one. So what is your favorite Tony's ice cream flavor?
I'm a simple guy. I always got to stick with vanilla.
Very good. I say I'm a chocolate guy, and I think I've said this on every time somebody says vanilla or chocolate, I say, I go in there, I'm going to get something different this time, and I never do. It's just chocolate. Chip?
I'm a chocolate guy. I branched out once or twice with cookie dough, but I always come back to their chocolate.
All right. Very good. Chip, Sundrop or Cheerwine?
Sundrop, 100%.
Yeah.
Same.
Double that, Sundrop.
Okay. How about favorite local restaurant, Officer Jaimes?
I would have to go with El Sombrero. If you haven't tried it, you should. It's Colombian authentic food.
Oh,
really
okay.
good.
I think
It's off Cox Road.
Okay, I don't think we have had that as an answer yet, so that's a first. Very good. Chip?
There's so many in Gaston County right now that I like. There's 1,000 running through my head. Pita Will is such a good standard. Sammy's such a good standard.
Yes.
String Beans, such a good standard. And I will tell you, as of recently, I think it's Miamo's downtown. Is that how it's pronounced? The new Italian restaurant is.
I haven't been there.
Yeah, Maggiamo's.
Maggiamo's.
It's really good.
It's really good. Good, yeah. And it's where Spindle City used to be.
Okay.
Right.
Well, it's interesting. Chip, when we were growing up, right, we don't have to go to Charlotte anymore, do we? To get good restaurant. There was a time when when I was much younger, I felt like that's what we had to do, but not anymore. And that suits me fine. I'm fine not going over the bridge if I don't have to.
I agree.
Officer Jane, maybe favorite outdoor activity in Gaston County or favorite park or?
I would have to go back to Rankin Lake.
Yeah, Rankin Lake's terrific.
Yeah.
I'm a Crowder's Mountain guy.
Crowder's is great.
Yeah, I used to, back in my a little bit younger days, I'd run Crowder's Mountain and do that and climb and hike, and I played there a ton as a kid and at the various parts of there and have picnics. So I'm a Crowder's Mountain guy.
I mean, again, to be where our county is located and to have a park like Crowder's Mountain here, that's one of those things I think we, as residents here for most of my life, it was one of those things we kind of take for granted. It's such a unique place. All right, here's my question that I take the liberty of asking just because I can, and I didn't get any normally I try to do a little research, but I can find out what your answers are going to be beforehand, just so I can, maybe not ask it if it's going to be the wrong answer. But Chip, I'll start with you. Is it UNC, Duke, or NC State?
UNC.
Oh, Elizabeth. Officer Jaimes?
Well, believe it or not, coming from New York, caught a lot of Duke games, so I'm a Duke Blue Devil fan. Yeah.
I just got crushed by both wrong answers today. So I won't hold that against you. Well,
thank you.
Totally. Officer Jaimes, what is something very few people know about you?
I'm always on social media, so I don't think there's not much people don't know about me. I'm a very family guy. I love to hang out with my kids a lot.
Very good.
And I love sports. I mean, that's really the basic things.
How many kids you have, if you don't mind me asking?
I have 3.
Okay.
I have 3.
I do as well. So my wife and I are just we're not far from being empty nesters ourselves. So that's coming up in a couple of years. Chip, what about you?
That's an easy one. I was a professional dancer from the age of 16, I guess you could say, until current. I own a dance studio on the side called Southern Dance Academy that has 439 students and 14 employees. And I travel the country on the weekends and doing choreography and judging dance events.
Okay. That is unexpected.
Cool.
I don't know why, but that is totally unexpected.
It's one of the things that people just never. And to be honest with you, long story short, had an operation on my legs when I was 5 years old. Doctors told my grandparents, who raised me here in Gaston County, that if they didn't do something to strengthen my legs, that I was going to either have a cane or a walker at some point. And so they dumped me in dance because it was non-contact. And so I just got lucky with it. I appeared on my first TV show called Kids World back in the day and I was like 9 or 10. They took me to Utah. From there, I made some connections and kind of furthered my career that way. Ended up, long story short, dancing on some cruise ships and dancing in Hawaii and doing some stuff like that.
Goodness.
And then, and then I got hurt. I graduated high school when I was 16, and I got hurt out in Vegas performing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because obviously I'm not going to be able to dance for the rest of my life. Ended up going to law school.
Wow.
And so, but luckily, I've continued on and, kind of recovered and have been real lucky. I stay booked out on the weekends, usually about 4 months.
I think, does this not sound like the halftime show?
I was thinking that.
Well, in all candor, I did ask the school board, and they do not want people dancing on their floor, their basketball floor. And plus, I'm sure that at this point, people don't want to watch a lot of people my age dancing around the floor.
Wow. So that just begs another question with the Boys and Girls Club. Have you participated in the Dancing for Future Stars event?
I have not. I was asked one year, and I was getting ready to participate 2018, and I got booked for a European tour.
Okay.
I got booked for a tour that where I was teaching in 3 different countries, and then after that, COVID hit, and we just kind of fell back and not been able to do it at this point. But somebody actually talked to me about it a week or two ago, said, next year, you really should
Chad,
consider
there you
that.
go. Chad Melvin, if you're listening, guys over at the Boys and Girls Club. So you heard it here. That sounded like a hard commit to me right here on live. Well, not live, but once it's out in the public domain, you can't go back.
Right.
Once you're out in the public domain. Chip, stick with you. In a book or anything you would recommend, blog or article that you follow, or something you would recommend to our listeners?
I listen every morning to Global World News on BBC. I feel like sometimes their perspective is a little bit different than what I normally listen to during the day. So I enjoy that podcast.
Okay.
As well as obviously Gaston's great.
Perfect.
Yeah. As far as a book, I go back to classics all the time.
Okay, good.
I'm a big Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm also, into but I'm also kind of a history guy as well. So, I just finished reading The Empire, which was the Attila the Hun.
Okay,
story.
To your point, I just recently, last year, I reread the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and just in January reread The Hobbit. So so that's just something I hadn't read since I was a teenager, probably. So it was interesting to get that different perspective on and some classic novels. Officer Jaimes, what about you, sir?
Well, considering I have a 3-year-old, I'm reading a lot of little kid books. So
Goodnight Moon or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss is definitely one of them. And recently, we're planning a Disney trip soon, so I've been watching a lot of those blogs and all that. So I've been pretty occupied with that stuff right now.
We have a professional Disney blogger, and absolutely right here in the room.
I'll be talking to you soon.
Anything you want to know about Disney, in all seriousness, Elizabeth is the person.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, guys, listen, I appreciate you indulging us on those Gaston County questions. And so we're going to finish up here with a couple more questions, and we'll be finished with this episode. But maybe, Officer Jaimes, stay with you. Besides, what you're doing in the Catch Me on the Court event that's coming up, why would you say Gaston County is such a great place?
Well, me being here 18 years and since coming from New York again, I'm sorry I'm reiterating about that. But
we don't hold that against you either.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that for being a Duke fan, right? But I've seen a lot of changes in those 18 years, and it's Gaston County to me. The reason why I moved to Charlotte was because it was a mini New York, and that's actually extending a little bit here too. Just a little sprinkled, but just the diversity. I see the people just happy to be around Gaston County, and just how much is growing downtown. and just all over the place. People are moving here. They're wanting to be in Gaston County.
Right.
And that to me is fascinating. And I'm very excited to be along for the ride and just be assistance any way I can to everyone.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Chip, how would you answer that question?
I think for me, it comes down to the people. I think that you have such a nice mix of people who are down to earth and willing to help one another that, it's just kind of a nice, refreshing breath in today's society. We have the opportunity in Gaston County, if like we were talking about earlier, you can go out to some really great restaurants. And you can go out to and the baseball stadium. We have these great things that you can do. We have all these outdoor activities. If we really wanted to, we could drive 30 minutes and be in Charlotte if you want to go to something like a show. But you can come back to some what I like to call normalcy and some peace of mind and some quiet. And like the people of Gaston County are varied. I mean, there's a unique culture here, but to me, this is home. And so the thing that's great about Gaston County for me is that it's home, and like I know like the people, and I've always felt it. Like if I needed something, I always felt like I could call somebody and they would be there. And that kind of has extended through my life. Like I said, I was raised by my grandparents, and I felt like they were at the time, very typical Gaston County people. Which my grandfather was a textile worker with Tycara. My grandmother worked for public service. And, and so, I felt like we were very common, and I went to Warlick Elementary School before Warlick, kind of changed over to what it is now.
Sure.
And then went to Holbrook and went to North Gaston. So I had like this mixture of friends and people in the community that I felt like were just solid, good people. And like, I think if you're asking me what's great about Gaston County, I'm just going to have to always come back to that's the people.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm a Sherwood, Greer, and Ashbrook.
Oh yeah.
And I still have contact with some of those, friends that I made growing up through Gaston County schools. So, again, I agree. Yeah, the people. It's a unique place, and I think I think it's a great place, and I think we're very fortunate to be able to live here. So, I say this multiple times about multiple questions, but I really do like this last question. So I'll stay with you, Chip. There's just a couple of years ago. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
It's not a race. I always felt like, the next thing, like I always set up goals and was like competitive within myself, which was a benefit. It got me to a lot of places that I wanted to be and gave me a lot of opportunities that I needed to have. But sometimes, because I was so goal-oriented, I missed the place that I was in at the moment. So I think, it's not a race. Take a breath. Look around while you're in it. I graduated North Gaston early. I graduated undergrad in 3 years. And, for me, I was I was out of college before I was 21, which seems like a horrible plan.
Wow,
Because what was I rushing to, which to work more. But in saying that, I think if I was looking back at my 20-year-old self, I'd be like, okay, slow down. It's okay to have goals, and it's okay to be working towards something and to have like these destinations you want to get to. But while you're working towards these goals, please take the time to kind of enjoy where you're at.
I think there can be some human nature tied into this whole concept of it will be better if the next thing happens, or if I get to the next thing, right? If I make more money, get a better job, whatever, move to a new place, whatever the case may be. And I think that's where you can miss what you're in the middle of.
And one of my best friends, he graduated high school with me. He has worked at Wix the entire time since he graduated high school. And every time I look over at him, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going here today. I'm going there today. Like he just enjoys life, and I envy that, 'cause his quality of life, because he's enjoying his children. And I think perspective, enjoying what you have when you have it, and not necessarily looking forward to the next thing, sometimes is a thing that we forget.
Yeah, perspective often comes up with that question, and the lack of it when you're 20.
Yeah.
Officer Jaimes, how would you answer that question?
Well, I would say two things. First, always be yourself. I know at 20, you kind of always want to, sometimes you kind of change yourself. You mold into wanting to be someone else. And really, you have to have your own set of values and morals growing up. and be true to yourself. I mean, just be true to yourself. I think people will see through the cracks, you know, and when you're doing something good, people will see that, you know. And another thing I would say is also never give up. Always it's always easier to give up than it is to keep moving forward. So keep moving forward.
Well, that's great. In fact, that's I get a few people that I know give me a hard time because my license plate actually says forward is the word on it. And I put that on there I don't know how many years ago. That's kind of my life word, so to speak. I follow a gentleman named John Gordon, who's a great author and speaker, and that's kind of something that he does every year. He does like a life word and then he does a word of the year every year. And I kind of picked that a few years ago because you're right. It's what's next, you know, don't lose that perspective of where you are in the middle of, but, you know, keep moving forward. So guys, this has been really good. I appreciate it. So just to kind of wrap up, where can our listeners go to learn more about the event, Catch Me on the Court, get involved, volunteer, contact you guys directly, buy tickets? How can they go about doing all that?
Absolutely. So Catch Me on the Court tickets can be purchased at a number of locations. You can go straight to the Gastonia City Police Department and buy them. You can buy them from me, and you can contact me at Cameron, CAMERONF, as in Fletcher, Harrison at gmail.com. Okay. And you can get them straight from me. You can also get them from the law offices of Holden and Clark. He's giving out or like selling tickets downtown area. As far as getting more information, there's a Facebook page called the Catch Me on the Court event page. Okay. As far as donations, if you can contact myself or Sergeant DiOrio at the Gastonia City Police Department, you can do that. We're selling tickets for 10. Children under 12 get in free. $20 for the event T-shirt that will have our logo on it and the sponsors on the back. And then we also have various sponsorships that we're making available for local businesses or individuals that would be interested. From you know, well, we'll take any amount, to be honest with you. Okay. But we have sponsorships available as well. If anybody wants to just call me directly, my phone number is 704-685-3268. I'll be glad to answer any questions or field any questions that anybody might have.
Okay, very good. And again, April 2nd, 1 o'clock at Stuart Cramer High School. So again, sounds exciting. So one last big question to both of you. So who's going to take the title for the first annual Catch Me on the Court event?
Yeah, okay, so we broke this down. We broke this down in the lobby. We were talking about this in the lobby because I'm a firm believer. I mean, you know, officers have, you know, physical training and all that kind of stuff that we don't necessarily have. You know, and they also have a little bit younger age range than we actually get into. So, you know, I feel like, you know, physicality, you know, probably is going to go on the officer's side. So in saying that, I'm thinking that the attorneys will win based off of maybe some experience and some height, because we got some height.
Do you? Okay.
But you know if the 10-minute quarters might get to us, I'll be honest.
So in other words, if the officers make it to the late third, early fourth quarter, that's when you're going to dominate, Officer Jaimes. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean that's what it sounds like to me. You know, pretty much looking for a good friendly game, and I think it's still a little bragging right there.
Yeah, you know? I was gonna say whoever gets to carry the trophy around for a year, you know, I'm sure there'll be pictures made and stuff like that. But you know, hopefully the attorneys are gonna have some surprises. We got a couple of attorneys that play a little bit of college ball, so you know, hopefully we can dust off their shoes and make a little bit of a difference.
All right, so you heard it here first that the attorneys are going to take is what I heard. But I'm just we'll be so in order to find out, you'll have to be there to see it. So again, gentlemen, I appreciate it. It sounds like an exciting event. I appreciate what you're doing for the community, and this is exactly the point of us having this podcast is to make the community more aware of organization and events like this that are going on. So I'm going to finish up with my, you know, I do my own book recommendation and kind of a quote or thought for the week. And President's Day was just a couple of days ago, and Chip mentioned his interest in history, and I'm similar, but I happened to catch my book this week. Happened to catch part of a mini-series a couple of nights ago that was based on this book. But Dave McCullough wrote a great book about John Adams. And there's a great mini-series that's on HBO if you ever want to catch that. But it's a very interesting story about the second president and his life. And so again, I would recommend that book. And my quote of the week kind of sticks with reading. And I really like this one. Groucho Marx said, "I find television very educational. Every time someone turns it on, I go in the other room and read a book." So as if you listen to any of these podcasts, you know that I'm a big fan of reading, and it's something I try to do every single day. So just remember that one. If television can be good and educational, but many times it's not. So go read a book instead, according to Groucho Marx. So to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to today's episode. Please spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at our email at podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please follow us on all our social media platforms, and you can rate the podcast as long as you're giving us a 5-star rating, because again, according to Elizabeth, that helps us get noticed. Thanks again to Chip and Officer Jaimes for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Amy Anderson and Elizabeth King from GSM Services, and edited here locally by the Sumner Group. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.